I'm Hope Duggar.
Broadcasting live from the KSHP studios in the heart of Las Vegas, Nevada. It's time to get on the right side of sports betting. It's time for the Odds Couple.
Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Odds Couple. This show is about sports betting. My name is Scott Pritchard, a professional sports bettor handicapper, joined as always by my good friend, co-host Brett Grant.
Good morning, Scott. How are you?
Who's this pretty lady sitting next to us? She looks familiar.
Thank God she looks like her mother.
No doubt about that. I hope she has her mother's personality as well. My daughter, Skylar, field trip, summer school, Las Vegas.
Bring your daughter to work day.
Welcome, like
Skylar.
it. Skylar, great to have you with us. We've got you muted, but at least you can listen to the show. This is the Odds Couple on KSHP AM 1400 radio, live and worldwide on Vegas Video Network. Live chat up and running. Keep those questions, comments, concerns coming. Studio line is open at 702-221-7283. That's 221-7283. We're going to be talking baseball, NBA playoffs, Stanley Cup Final getting going. Lionel Hollins for the Memphis Grizzlies had a great year for the Grizzlies, even though management traded away his best player in Rudy Gay. And their bench, they traded away his bench. But Lionel Hollins is out as the coach of the Memphis Grizzlies. What say you?
Well, a 56-win season, the best season they've ever had when it comes to their life in Memphis from the NBA. Lionel Hollins, who spent some time here in Las Vegas coaching the now defunct Las Vegas Bandits. When you look at, Scott, the fact that are you fired or are you just, hey, we forgot to send you a piece of paper for you to sign? I don't know. I mean, you win 56 games, you take your team to the farthest they've ever gone before, and you get rewarded with, no thanks, we don't want you anymore. I'm a loyalty guy, and I understand the NBA is all about, or all professional sports is about, loyalty is nothing anymore. But I think it's garbage.
So you feel bad for Lionel
Hollins? Yeah, I feel
Hollins.
bad for him. I mean, he went to the Western Conference Finals. They've never been there before. He's taken the franchise to new heights. Can he? Is he the right guy? I guess management basically is saying, you're not the guy to take us to the next level. Well, how do you know? They traded all my players away. I had no bench. Could they have beaten Memphis or beaten San Antonio had they had a bench? Probably not, but still.
Well, I mean, going into that series, the San Antonio Spurs hosting the Memphis Grizzlies, remember, it opened basically a pick. I mean, the early money, it opened minus 110 with the Spurs, even though they had home court advantage. These two teams split during the course of the regular season, but all the wise guy, sharp money came in on my San Antonio Spurs. Pop knows best. Greg Popovich, the best coach on the planet. And there was a reason why there was a move from minus 10 to minus 50, because a lot of people saw what you and I saw, knowing that the Spurs are proven. I call it the Greg Popovich Invitational, the fact that that team had been to the Western Conference Finals now 8 times in the past 15 years. But the fact of the matter is, it's challenging. I mean, I think this Memphis Grizzlies team overachieved, and I think Lionel Hollins had a lot to do with that. Now, I've always been a big fan of Lionel Hollins. I remember being in the 7th grade, 1977. They were down 2-0 to the Philadelphia 76ers. Hollins on that Portland Trailblazers team with Maurice Lucas and, of course, Bill Walton. And they came back to win 4 straight games. A very good player, a very good coach. He's a player's coach, but I feel that initially I questioned the trade. I didn't think it made that much sense. How can you trade away your best player, Rudy Gay, to Toronto? You get rid of 2 to 3 key bench players, and yet Lionel Hollins called out management at the time. He was upset. I was upset because I was riding the Grizzlies up to that time, but I'm thinking, hey, man, if the coach is not happy and you traded away your bench and your best player, so I started betting against the Grizzlies, and I started losing.
Well, he's got to give some credit then. I mean, he's been there for 4 years. His first year, they won 40 games and missed the playoffs. His second year, 46 games, lost in the Western Conference semifinals. The next year, 41 games, and they lost in the first round. This year, 56 games, and they make it to the Western Conference Finals. They've improved, from 40 wins to 56 wins, from a 480 team basically to a 680 team. There aren't too many 680 win percentage teams in the NBA. Those guys don't grow on trees. Ironically, they're going to go after the guy from Denver, George Karl, who can never win in the postseason, who might be their next head coach.
Yeah, the NBA Coach of the Year, let go.
In the recycle bin.
Yeah, he'll obviously find a job somewhere. George Karl, one of my least favorite coaches for the Denver Nuggets. I respect. Ben, you don't have to know why it is. Sometimes the less you know, the more you know. With George Karl, for whatever reason, he's a great regular season coach, but his style of coaching does not equate to postseason success. In 9 years with the Denver Nuggets, where they had talent, one time in 9 years, the Nuggets advanced past the first round.
Yeah, and George Karl, though, because of his name, because of his reputation, because of how good he's been overall, whether he gets the Memphis job or not, he'll still be in consideration for other jobs very quickly. I guess I'm reading now the overwhelming favorite is Grizzlies assistant coach Dave Jorger, I guess, who he said he is the overwhelming favorite to succeed him. So they're going to, it looks like, from what I'm reading, potentially hire from within, from somebody within Lionel's own coaching staff. So does that scream of treason? That maybe somebody was working behind the scenes on him?
I wonder, because you have to remember, no one's talking about this, but Bayless, the reserve guard, who's a very good player, he got into a shoving match. I mean, they picked it up on national TV. I believe it was the last game, Game 4 in the Western Conference Finals. There was a real problem with Bayless and the coach, Hollins. So I don't know if that had anything to do with that, but I do like the fact that the Grizzlies are promoting within. Maybe you can find it within your heart to do the same thing here. Brett is the general manager, owner of KSHP, and if you want to promote within and one day have me own the station, I would be open to that. Something to keep in mind.
I think I'd rather have Skylar as my partner over here. She's pretty happy about that.
She works well with others, unlike her father. So, so you're listening to The Odds Couple on KSHP AM 1400 Radio. We're live each and every day, Monday through Friday from 10 to 11 Las Vegas time, live and worldwide on the Vegas Video Network. These shows are archived forever and ever and ever. Amen. I'm a professional sports bettor handicapper featured all over my own website, pritchardspicks.com. Opt in today for free daily picks. Remember, some of the information is free. Some of the information you do have to pay for. On my site, you'll see the latest in regards to my sports betting seminar coming up, How to Bet Football and Win at Harrah's Hotel Casino on the Strip, Las Vegas, Friday, September 6th. I'll be joined by my good friend, colleague, fellow professional sports bettor, Dink, featured in the movie Lay the Favorite, sports betting movie starring Bruce Willis as Dink. I'm also featured on VegasInsider.com. We have 1 million views per day, a sports betting informational website. Check that out. I love the site. The plays are time-stamped and documented. Tim Donaghy, former NBA official, reached out to me a few weeks ago. I'm now one of the premier handicappers on Tim's site, refpicks.com. Scott Pritchard alongside Brett Grant. Independently, we're not too impressive, but together we are the odds couple. What a fun show yesterday. My good buddy Daryl Wright, famous comedian, along with Amanda Blow. She always attracts the male viewers. Wasn't that fun?
It was fun. Always good that Daryl's able to come in and spend some time with us. And Amanda, she's like between your sandwich over there. What do you call her? She's not, I was going to say something bad, but I can't say that. So I realize your daughter's here. I can't possibly say that. But no, it was a fun show for sure.
So Daryl Wright and Amanda Blow, our guests yesterday, the very lovely, talented, beautiful Skylar Pritchard, age 10, going on 18. Your daughter graduated high school this past week.
Yes.
I understand, if I'm not mistaken, 159 students in her class. She finished 11th. That's outstanding.
Yeah, very proud of her, especially with all the things that she had to go through over that period of time. With our family, we had some issues going on, my health being one of those significant things going through that. So she was very focused academically and did very well. So I'm very proud of her.
You are who your friends are. I feel blessed to be here with Jacob Cannon, Scott Whitney, the executive producer. His daughter, I mean, you have any idea how hard it is to get into Harvard? His daughter is knocking it out at Harvard University. So, hey, we're hanging with some pretty good company.
Harvard Law School graduate.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive. See what you got to live up to, Skylar? It's got a lot of pressure on you. But, no, very, very impressive, that's for sure.
Well, we were talking about Lionel Hollins being out for the Memphis Grizzlies as their coach. Mo Cheeks, okay, former player, great player, likable coach, likable player, coached the Portland Trail Blazers, underachieved. but now he's in as the coach of the Detroit Pistons. And I understand, I like Mo Cheeks, okay? He's a hard guy not to like. As a coach, I think he's average on his best day, but like you say, it's somewhat of a revolving door. Once you're in as an NBA coach, you're in. It's a lifetime club. But the thing that... Right. And I don't know if you remember this, but years ago there was a lady who won a contest. She was maybe 12 years old, and she was singing the national anthem before a basketball game, and she forgot the words halfway through.
I do remember.
Maurice Cheeks was the coach at the time, and he went up and helped her and sang, and 20,000 fans joined. It's a feel-good moment. But again, I don't know what that has to do with winning and losing when it comes to the NBA basketball.
Well, I think the thing when you look at with the Detroit Pistons is their roster. What do they have on that roster that's going to make you think that Mo Cheeks is going to be the guy that's going to turn that around? It's not a very talented team. It might be, one of the least talented teams in the Eastern Conference overall. I mean, I thought Mo did a decent job in Portland. He's out there in relative anonymity out in Portland with some players and had some issues with a couple of guys that underperformed in spots. But if Brandon Knight and Kim English and Will Bynum and some of their young players like a Greg Monroe and Charlie Villanueva and if those guys grow and mature, they have a very young roster. There is talent on the roster, but I don't know how quickly they can turn that thing around, especially with what they have to deal with in their own division and, of course, in the conference.
It's going to take some time. I think Mo Cheeks, again, the fact that he's proven as a coach, limited basis, okay? He's a good coach, not great. Lionel Hollins, again, boy, timing's everything. I mean, where do you think Lionel Hollins will end up at the end of the day?
Well, I don't think 56-win coaches sit around very long on the unemployment line. I got to think that he'll get a look at it with the Clippers or wherever openings might yet be open around. I mean, he and George Karl, whether you like them or not, they do win in the regular season, which means I'll have sold-out arenas. I'll sell lots of popcorn and beer and soda and souvenirs, and we'll win 56 games, and people will feel good about themselves. And the playoffs are a crapshoot in a lot of ways. I can't see those guys, either one of them, being out of coaching very long.
What about Vinny Del Negro? The former coach of the LA Clippers led that team to, I believe it was 56 wins this year, the most they had ever won. So you have three very good coaches in Lionel Hollins, George Karl, Denver, Del Negro for the Denver Nuggets after coaching the Chicago Bulls. He was kind of run out of town there. I thought he ended up with somewhat of a raw deal there. But we know in LA, Chris Paul, CP3, is running the show, not the coach.
Well, then you also have Jason Kidd. They're looking at him as potentially going right off the court to becoming a coach very, very quickly. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think Vinny Del Negro was also a guy who was probably should have been treated better than he was. So a lot of these guys have been, pushed aside because of player issues or lack of response in the postseason. But they're all winners in the regular season.
NBA playoffs, we're talking Game 3 tonight, Miami Heat on the road taking on the San Antonio Spurs. We're going to talk about that. We want to talk now about Stanley Cup Final, Game 1 tomorrow night, Chicago Blackhawks at home against the Boston Bruins. I see that the Blackhawks are favored in Game 1. The total, I believe, is 5 under minus 30, 35, 40 cents. But the series price, Chicago favored as well, and it's somewhat conducive, comparable to the Game 1 side total line.
Well, you have two terrific teams, winners of the Stanley Cup 2 years ago and 3 years ago, representing the finals here this year. The Kings won last year, and then you go back, you had Boston and you had Chicago had won the Cups in previous years. Two terrific teams, original 6 teams, two teams with a great history against each other. You go back to the days of Stan Mikita and Bobby Orr and Bobby Hull and all the great players, whether it was Phil Esposito and Tony Esposito, goalie and brother, against each other as a forward. Should be a great series. I mean, Tuukka Rask, the goalie of the Boston Bruins, was absolutely terrific against the Pittsburgh Penguins in that series where the Bruins just annihilated the Penguins. And then Corey Crawford was very, very good against the LA Kings. And, of course, Patrick Kane has changed his name to Hat Trick Kane, as he had 3 goals and had a hat trick. That's where you throw your hat, Skylar, right on the ice, and you don't get it, and you don't get it back. You think they would give it back to you? You say, I'm up here in row G. Can I have my hat back? They say, no, you threw it on the Now, if you throw things on the court in basketball, they send you away, right? They say, no, you got to leave.
It's not
but
allowed.
In hockey, you're allowed to do it.
Right.
In Detroit, they throw octopi on the ice. They do. It's a tradition. But anyway, it should be a great series. I think it's nothing like playing hockey in the middle of June. Although if you looked at the weather yesterday in Chicago, it looked like it was going to snow with all the fog rolling in. But it should be a very good series. Great offensive team in the Blackhawks. Very good goaltending right now. And, of course, the big monster, 6'9", Zdeno Chara on the blue line for the Boston Bruins. He's a big guy. And it'll be interesting to see how he is able to stop Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane, the big offensive juggernauts of the Blackhawks.
You touched on adverse weather in the Midwest and even back east yesterday. Interesting, the Angels game played, it looked like a mud bowl. I mean, there was a big 2-hour-plus rain delay in that game before the O's ultimately won the game. It's interesting. I do look at the weather report before I bet a game, and it's a good thing because yesterday I liked Jared Weaver minus the 25 cents.
Right.
But you always have to buyer beware. Think in terms of, okay, do you want to – and in this case, it played out. They got the game in and all that. But do you want to tie up the time, the money, knowing that maybe your star ace pitcher is only going to go 2 or 3 innings, and then there's a big, long rain delay. He may or may not come back. So, I mean, chances are he's not. So you want to take that into consideration when you're handicapping these games as well. But in Chicago, fog's settling in.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that on Are You Kidding Me? But let's talk about the Angels game. That looked like they were playing in Lake Pontchartrain. I mean, it was unbelievable the amount of water that was on that field in a short period of time. And I guess you could have played the first 5 innings, but in the bottom of the 5th, the Angels waited 1-0. The Orioles came back and scored 2 runs, and it looked like they were going to call the game, delay the game right there. They decided to keep playing, ended up being 2-2, and then a huge error by Josh Hamilton on a ball that skipped. It's like you skip rocks on the lake. Ball just skipped right underneath his glove, and that's not necessarily his fault. Went by him, ends up being 4-2 Orioles, water everywhere, and they finally decide to stop the game for a delay. I mean, guys are sliding to second base on water skis yesterday. I don't know what they were doing. Talk about player safety. If I'm the owner of either one of those teams, with the amount of money I have invested on the field, I'm a little upset that the umpires didn't stop that game a little sooner.
I'm with you there. I mean, we want to see the players perform. You go to a game, you tie up the time to watch it on TV. You want to see the players play, but not at the risk of risking an injury. I mean, It's a long season, 6 months, 162 games plus the playoffs. But Josh Hamilton, you touched on the fact that he had a key error in that game, and Josh Hamilton is known for many things. Defense is not one of them.
Yeah, no, you're right. He did hit a home run in the game. That's where they got their 1 run, I believe. Oh, Mike tried to hit a homer, but Hamilton,
11th,
tried homer to give him the 1-0 lead. But that was it was a very big play in the game, and it ends up being the winning run was scored. And more than likely, that error does not happen if they had delayed the game when they should have delayed the game. A hit like that, the ball would have bounced. It would have came right where it was supposed to be. But because they were playing under adverse field conditions, the ball skipped. It went under his glove, and the Angels ended up losing the game 4-3 last night.
We're talking baseball on the Odds Couple. We're live and worldwide, Vegas Video Network. Check us out live Monday through Friday, AM 1400 KSHP Radio. My name is Scott Pritchard alongside Brett Grant. I'm a professional sports bettor handicapper. I've been fortunate having won sports handicapping contests in Las Vegas. Check out my picks at pritchardspicks.com. I want to talk about the LA Dodgers. We broadcast the Dodger games here. We also broadcast the Los Angeles Clipper basketball games, the Dallas Cowboys football games, BYU football. But our Dodgers, man, they've underachieved. Last night, their stud horse Ace going Kershaw, a $1.90 favorite, a $1.80, $1.75. The money came in on the dog, and once again, dogs have been barking once again this baseball season. And the Dodgers, man, what is their problem?
Don Mattingly. That is their problem. It's that simple. The man is not a very good manager. I mean, you got your ace on the mound who was pitching very well. They got the superstar sensation in the Cuban Puig, who has been terrific. They moved him down to the 4-hole now, and he's still hitting the ball all over the place. You had the lead. You end up losing the game yesterday, 5-4, as the Diamondbacks rallied to win the game. And again, Don Mattingly kind of butchered the end of the game. It's 5-4 late. They bring in Brandon League, and Brandon League gives up the lead, basically.
Yeah, you were one of the few people calling this early. You really questioned his managerial style and competence. I mean, he was a very good player, of course, but oftentimes great players do not make great managers. And Mattingly has been questionable, average at
Well, how'd you
best.
like to be Clayton Kershaw? You leave the game, your team is winning 3-1. You walk out the locker room and you lost 5-4. And you're like, what happened, guys? I gave you the lead. I gave you 7 strong innings, 6 hits, and then Jansen came in, pitched the 8th perfectly, and here comes Brandon League, gives up 4 runs on 4 hits. He walks a guy and blows the save, gets only 2 guys out, and you walk out with a loss. And the Diamondbacks are a very good team, but nobody talks about the Diamondbacks. They are in first place, by the way.
By the way, I believe by
nobody
2
knows
games.
that.
Yeah, right.
Nobody knows that. You can go out and ask 10 guys on the street, and 9 guys will say the Giants or the Dodgers.
Right.
And the other guys go, are the Diamondbacks even in our league? Are they in our division?
These are the same guys betting baseball on a daily basis.
Oh, yeah, just betting the Dodgers. Yeah, that Puig guy's pretty good. I'm blindly betting Kershaw. Well, and that's the thing. We talk about this quite a bit, and I know you do as well. With a back end of the bullpen as unreliable as the Dodgers have, and Kershaw playing, if you're going to bet him, you got to bet him for the first 5 innings.
It's surprising
or pray
to me.
He throws a complete game.
Right. But then you're gambling a little bit because as good as you can be, you will make your bet based on who the starting pitchers are. The concern is, as good of a handicapper as you might be, you do not know. I don't know who's going to be pitching in the 6th, 7th, 8th inning. I know who my closer is. I know who your closer is. But I don't know who's going to be pitching in the 10th, 11th, 12th inning. So the idea is if you have an ace pitcher and you like the guy and you like the matchup and your bullpen is questionable, a la the Dodgers, then bet the first 5 innings. What's surprising to me, Brett, is the sports books, for the most part, it pays to shop. It's like anything else. You want to grind, scalp, get the best of it every single play that you bet. But it's amazing to me how they don't really shade the first 5 innings compared to the 9. It's almost always within 5 cents of the game side line.
Right. You know, the Dodgers, the loss last night could really have a big effect on them negatively. It'll be interesting to see how they respond. Even Vince Scully was kind of beside himself last night, and has been a little more outspoken about how poorly the Dodgers have been playing this year and how poorly they've finished some games. So it's pretty obvious. Although the rookie sensation from Cuba, Puig, has been terrific. He's batting .500. He had 3 hits again last night. He's really the only thing that's sparking that team along offensively. You got a lot of guys on the disabled list. Jeff Kemp, of course, we've talked quite a bit about him on the DL. They've moved Andre Ethier over to center field. Carl Crawford has been hurt as well. So you got Hairston or Van Slyke or Skip Schumacher out in the outfield. The Dodgers are a mess right now. I mean, they got Nick Punto playing shortstop. Nick Punto's about 84 years old. He has a wheelchair.
He's been around forever.
Yeah. He's a scrappy dude, but he's not a shortstop. He's a utility guy. He needs to be coming off your bench, giving you a spot start. He's playing every day, and it's not the best way to utilize him. So when you have these injuries, you're utilizing guys in roles they're not comfortable with, and it's just it's not going to be effective for you.
You're listening to The Odds Couple on KSHP AM 1400 Radio, live and worldwide. Vegas Video Network live chat up and running. Studio line open, 702-221-7283. Enjoyed hearing from a gentleman, Steve, yesterday wanting to talk basketball, Spurs, and Heat. Let me bring in the big fat wheel. This is called Spin to Win. Spurs taking on the Heat. The Miami Heat are getting 2 points. The smart sports bettor bets with their head, never their heart. Check your emotions, check your ego at the door. I am forced to make an argument for whatever the wheel says. Brett automatically has to take the opposing side because the smart sports bettor understands you should be able to make an argument for either side before you step up and bet your hard-earned money. Who do I have?
This is great because yesterday you had the Spurs, today you have the Heat.
Miami Heat.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
You know, the sports books, I think they have the number right at 2, but they have the wrong team favored. Have they not been paying attention? The Miami Heat, 3rd straight year they've made it to the NBA Finals. The Miami Heat won the title a year ago. They're better than they were a year ago. There's a reason why this line opened 2.5. The money has come in on Miami because that's the right side. FTM, follow the money. It works in life. It works in business. It works in sports betting. If you want to know which way the wise guys, Joe Public is not driving that number. Professional wise guy sports bettors are driving that number. Miami Heat, they're going to buck the trend here because the fact is, we've talked about this, it's been documented, zigzag. They have been a team, when the Heat lose, they come on like a house on fire, like they did, very predictable in Game 2. They not only win, they win going away. They were favored by 5.5, 6.5 is what the line closed. They ended up winning by 19 points, 103-84, 2 short days ago. Now, history has proven that this Heat team, when they win, they get lazy, they get complacent. That's in the past, okay? That's in the past. If you can't get motivated for Game 3 NBA Finals, this is the time. The problem with the Heat, they turn it on, they turn it off. I love the Spurs because you know what you're going to get. Continuity, consistency, they believe in the system, they believe in each other, and they play hard for this city of San Antonio, and they play hard for Coach Greg Popovich. In this situation, because the wheel says I have to make an argument for the Heat, Miami Heat plus the 2.
All right, I got to go on the other side, and you gave me the main argument, which is the Heat are a zigzag team. We look at that theory. They lose game 1. They came out, they played great in game 2, and now we go back on the other side and we look at the Spurs, who did what they needed to do in Miami. They got a win. Now they've got 3 straight at home. The last thing they need to do is immediately go back and lose game 3 and give back that home court advantage back to the Miami Heat. You're going to get a very focused effort from the San Antonio Spurs tonight. They didn't play well at all in game 2 in the final maybe, 15, 17 minutes of the game. They got blown out. That'll be stuck in their craw a little bit. And I think Greg Popovich will make that adjustment. They've done a very good job of controlling LeBron James, a great job in controlling the big 3 overall. It was Mario Chalmers who beat him up in game 2. That's not going to happen again. I like the Spurs. I'm laying only 2 at home. I've got a great team that nobody thinks I can do it. I think I'm in great shape with Tim Duncan, and Splitter didn't play very well. Kawhi Leonard didn't play well. Duncan didn't play well. Tony Parker was okay in game 2. They didn't play well in game 2. I think the Spurs will be very good, especially at home, comfortable. Watch out. It'll be raining threes. Hallelujah in San Antonio. I'll lay the 2. And with the Spurs.
What a difference a month or 2 makes. I mean, the whole world, not you and me so much, but the rest of the world down on the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, the fact is they finished 3-7 their last 10 games, but we warned our viewers and our listeners that the San Antonio Spurs would win the West. I put my money where my mouth is. San Antonio Spurs to win the West plus 250, plus 220. It was nice. And I understand that had Russell Westbrook not gotten hurt, it would have been a photo, but that's why you're getting big fat pluses and you hedge. In this case, didn't have to hedge a copper penny because come the moment of truth, Western Conference Finals against the Memphis Grizzlies, they never faced an elimination game, meaning I did not have to face the sports book by hedging,
right?
Which is great. But I look at this Game 3 situation with the San Antonio Spurs at home against the Miami Heat. We know how challenging it is. Now, they changed the format. It's 2-3-2. It's been that way, but they changed it from the rest of the postseason. It's 2-2-1-1-1. In the finals, it's 2-3-2, but it's very rare that the home team, a la the Spurs in this case, will win. It's so challenging to win 3 consecutive games at home. I would expect the Spurs, I think it's reasonable to expect that they'll win 2 of the 3. They'll be a small favorite in all 3, barring a major injury, meaning they'd have to go back to Miami for Games 6 and 7. We know they're a very good road team. They'd have to win 1 of those final 2 games. So I want to talk to you about the series price, adjusted series price. Going in, the Miami Heat, they were favored basically about minus 220 is what they were. Now, after Game 1, the Spurs were favored to win the series. Today, it's 1-1. Now it's best 3 out of 5. Basically, 3 of those 5 games are in San Antonio. So as you said, Brett, they have stolen home court advantage away from Miami. The Heat are favored $1.70. Take back plus 55 cents on the Spurs. Interesting to me because the next 3 games are in San Antonio. 3 of the remaining 5 games are in San Antonio, yet the Heat are favored $1.70. To me, it seems a bit happy. I was hanging with Matt Yeomans from the Las Vegas Review-Journal yesterday at Red Rock Sportsbook, and we were talking about we thought there might be some value with the Spurs at the plus 55, based on what I just said, knowing that they're favored in this game and next game and Game 5. But the money has moved against. I mean, the money has been on the Heat. So, I mean, it moved up to 75, 80 cents, Miami. How do you see this playing out?
Well, that's a good point. I was curious. I was going to ask you this myself. The series opened about $2, right? Right around there?
Well, it opened anywhere from $2 to $2.20 to $2.50, depending upon where you look. But these sports books oftentimes are such whores that the juice, that would be minus 250 plus 200. Right. Generally, the average was minus 220 plus 90, minus 220 plus 2, depending upon where you looked.
So if you wanted San Antonio, you should have played them before the series started because you would have gotten maybe plus $2, $1.90, $1.80. Now, it 1-1, you're only getting $1.55, and very easily Miami comes in and wins one of these games. All Miami wants to do is get this thing back home where they feel comfortable back home, right?
See, I respectfully disagree with that.
Right.
In fact, I think now, if you like the Spurs, this is an ideal time to be on them, because even at plus 2-1 before the series started, I mean, for all intent and purpose, the Heat were favored by 5 to 6, 6.5 points, so you had to figure it was reasonable. The Heat would probably win those first two games, but lightning struck. The Spurs won the first game, so it's 1-1. But now, all things being equal, we know the Spurs are a small favorite. You always want to put yourself in favorable positions to where if the worst should happen, come an elimination game, you can hedge, get off, but you want to deal with pluses, never minuses. So the idea here is I would rather have the Spurs at plus 55 cents today than plus 2-1 before the series started. I mean, but I didn't know that the Spurs were going to win Game 1.
Right.
So, but going into that series, mathematically speaking, I think it makes better sense today to bet plus 55 cents on the Spurs, knowing that 3 of the 5 games are in San Antonio, as opposed to knowing that the Heat had home court 4 of 7 games at plus 2-1.
Makes sense.
Hindsight's 20/20. I mean, hindsight, of course. I mean, knowing that the Spurs won Game 1, then it changes everything. One game changes everything. You're listening to The Odds Couple on KSHP AM 1400 Radio. Las Vegas, Sin City. It doesn't get much better than this, talking sports on a day-in, day-out basis. We're live and worldwide. Vegas Video Network live chat up and running. I love those live chat questions. I mean, we heard from Steve yesterday on the studio line. And then
Steve says Heat in 6, by the way.
The Heat in 6?
That's what you just said, yeah.
Steve, if you really believe that, you're in the right town. You will make some serious money. You can bet an exact number of games. I don't suggest that because, again, the sports books are such whores that they will not give you. It would be nice if they would let you bet the other side of that. Okay, it's one thing for you to put up a prop that you can bet that the Heat will win an exact number of games, but they won't put up the opposite. Like, I bet that won't happen, because that way at least you get somewhat of a fair shot if you can shop, reduce the vig, the rub, the juice per the sports books. But Steve, I always has an opinion. I like that. He's one of the mainstays. He's always dialed in for live chat, occasionally calling in, talking some sports. Feel free, Steve, to pick up the phone, give us a call. We'll talk specifics on the Spurs Heat. 221-7283 is the number, 702-221-7283.
Well, it should be an interesting final 5 games. Now, what happens to the series price, let's say 2 games from now? When it's if it's 2-2, 2 games from now, and 2 of the final 3 games are in Miami, do you expect the series price to go back to where it was at the original start of the series?
I actually would expect it to go higher
than that, okay.
Because, again, the longer something goes, the greater the chance that it will play out the way it's supposed to. Random things happen in a short sample size. That's how come if you're handicapping 10 games and you hit 7 out of 10, congratulations. I'm not impressed. That's 70%. That's world-class and kicking ass. Congratulations. I'm not impressed. I am impressed if you go 700 and 300. It's 70%. All numbers are not created equally. The idea is a long sample range will give you a real barometer. I would rather have 400 more winners as opposed to 4, yet they're both 70%. So you'll see if it is 2-2, Game 5, even though that's in San Antonio, 2 of the last 3 games would be in Miami, you would see it, I think, higher. But it all depends on how the series is played. Even looking back to the Spurs-Grizzlies, I have to deal with objective reality, being an independent progressive thinker. I look at the Spurs taking on the Grizzlies. I mean, yeah, the Spurs won all 4 games, and I'm very happy. But 2 of those 4 games went overtime and could have went either way.
Right.
So if you look at the Heat Spurs, I really believe the 2 best teams in basketball are playing for the NBA Final. And what I like about basketball, the better team generally wins. So I respect what Steve says. I mean, and that's why they're favored. Even though 3 of the next 5 games are in San Antonio, there's a reason why the Miami Heat are favored to win this series.
Should be fun. I look at what San Antonio is able to do with guys like Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard and Splitter and, of course, Duncan and Ginobili and Parker. And you talk about San Antonio has their big 3. The Heat have their big 3. Let's say the 3s cancel each other out a little bit. The Heat might be a little the Spurs might be a little deeper than the Miami Heat are.
The San Antonio Spurs are deeper, and they rebound the ball better than the Heat. The Miami Heat have done it a number of different ways, but their Achilles heel is rebounding the ball. But you have to love the Spurs. They're not sexy. I love this team. All they do is win. And it starts at the top, their leader, okay? Their leader, Greg Popovich. They bought into his system. But you look at the talent level between the Heat and the Spurs, and you look at the draft. I'm glad you brought this up. I really am, because in 2003, Bosh, James, Wade, I mean, these guys were top 5 picks. Top 5 players picked. All right? If you look at Manu Ginobili, he was picked up. He was the 57th player drafted in round 2. Tony Parker, 28th player in the first round. He's the best point guard in basketball. Forget CP3. Forget the media, what you're hearing. I'm telling you, Tony Parker is the best point guard in basketball.
And both guys international players. Maybe San Antonio obviously has done a good job going international with guys, and other franchises don't do as good of a job. Maybe it's because it's not their focus as much, or they just don't the guys they're shooting for internationally don't pan out. But they've got 3 international players that are very productive players. Splitter, the other one, along with the 2 you mentioned, that are very big contributors to the Spurs roster.
It goes to leadership. It goes to management. A good leader influences, services others, and leads by example. And the Spurs are living proof of this. Manu Ginobili, the 57th player drafted, and he went to the second round. 9 players before him didn't even get a shot to play. Didn't even make an NBA roster, and yet this guy is a star player. Well, how about Splitter in 2007? I mean, again, but you brought up a good point. An international team. This team, unlike any other, and I think it has to do. I mean, Boris Diaw, Splitter is from Brazil. Diaw, France, Parker, France, Ginobili, where's he from?
Argentina.
Right on. So, I mean, it's an international sport,
Don't
and the
cry
Spurs
for
have
me,
taken
Argentina.
The Spurs have figured it out.
Well, I think the international flavor of the Spurs also is an important part, because the international player, their mentality is a lot different than the American player. They are very unselfish players. They move the basketball. They all can do varieties of things. They're not just a one-trick pony like you see some American players are, who love to get to the basket, who don't have the mid-range jump shot, who are guys who are bombers and they don't go to the basket. These guys can go to the basket. They can shoot 10-foot jumpers. They can shoot three-pointers. They can pass. They can play defense. They can rebound. They do all those things.
Scott Pritchard, Brett Grant, Odds Couple, KSHP AM 1400 Radio. I'm with the love of my life, my beautiful, angelic daughter, Skylar Pritchard. She's 10 years old, going on 18. Man, oh man, am I a lucky guy or what?
She's still awake. We haven't put her to sleep yet. She's still smiling. She does laugh on cue. I'll give her that as well.
She does, and the thing is, I told her that we're going to mute her mic, okay? But next time we will have her share her thoughts. But I have to say, this is the quietest I've ever heard her be in her 10 years. Is there a mute button I wonder I could find at home?
Doubtful. Doubtful.
And I wouldn't want it any other way. She's awesome. So you're listening to The Odds Couple on KSHP AM 1400 Radio, live and worldwide, Vegas Video Network. Brett Grant, Scott Pritchard. We're going to take a commercial break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Have you ever thought you should be on the radio? Or have you considered doing an online video show or podcast? If so, now is your only chance to do both at the same time. KSHP and the Vegas Video Network have teamed up to provide the only multi-camera broadcast quality video and live radio simulcast in Las Vegas. And instead of having your show played at some ungodly hour, the KSHP Vegas Video Network partnership is producing shows that play from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. Imagine having your own radio show broadcasting to the entire Las Vegas Valley, and combine that with an online presence that is viewed in all 50 states and 150 countries, both live and on demand. This is a first and an outstanding opportunity to give voice to your business, your ideas, and your talent. If you'd like your own show on KSHP and the Vegas Video Network, contact us today at 221-1200. That's 221-1200.
Welcome back to The Odds Couple on KSHP AM 1400 Radio, live and worldwide, Vegas Video Network. We would love for you to reach out to us here. Simply email us at oddscouple@vegasvideonetwork.com. That's oddscouple@vegasvideonetwork.com. We also have web-based voicemail. Would love to hear your voice on our show. Simply go to our site, Vegas Video Network. Right-hand side, there's a red bar. Click there. Middle of the page, a green bar. Hit the Start Record button. And we have live chat that's up and running. And the studio line is open at 702-221-7283. If you do miss us live, no worries. Check us out. Vegas Video Network, YouTube, iTunes, Roku. Welcome to my world. I get annoyed on a day-to-day basis, and it usually has to do with sports betting. Are you kidding me?
Well, I'm going to start off with the segment. We talked a little bit about it yesterday. The two games yesterday in Chicago, the White Sox and the Cubs, both were at home yesterday, and they played in this amazing fog. Usually, guys like Vida Blue might have played in a fog, or Doc Ellis back in the day. They were in a fog going through because they were in trouble. But Major League Baseball, usually it's the umpire who decides when to delay a game, when not to delay a game based on field conditions and adverse weather. We saw it in Baltimore where they should have stopped in a rain delay, maybe a full inning before they did. Yesterday I'm watching both games, and there's times when you could not see the outfielders. And the batters didn't necessarily have a problem. They could see the ball coming into them. They're hitting the ball, and you're watching the replays. And it was like, remember the football game, the Bears and the Eagles?
Bears, late 80s.
Yeah. Randall cutting him back to throw. Where did he go? That's a fly. Imagine a baseball, which is already white with a little Mississippi mud on it, because that's what they rub on the baseballs. So it's a little grayish into a gray sky, into a fog that is laying literally on the field, and guys are expected to play baseball. How is that safe? Guys throwing baseballs at 90-plus miles per hour, 95 miles an hour at hitters who can't see the ball. Are you kidding me that they allowed both of these games? Now, the White Sox game was delayed. The Cubs game, I don't think ever was. I watched a lot of it. It was never delayed. Brandon Phillips managed to hit a grand slam. I don't know how he saw the ball. He said, actually, it was he goes, I thought they were barbecuing across the street in the stands, because it looked like a cloud of smoke coming across in the barbecue. We've seen the fogs here, Scott, from the fires and the smoke that comes across. Imagine playing a baseball game in that. That's what they did yesterday on the north side and the south side, and there's a picture of it. I can't see the scoreboard. I can't see center field, the center fielder. They're playing in that. That's very unsafe. I think the umpires did a poor job. So are you kidding me in that one?
My Are You Kidding Me segment has to do with Tim Tebow. It's Tebow time!
Stop. Tebow time.
It just occurred to me, my daughter goes to a private Christian school, Mountain View Christian School, and they love Tim Tebow. Me? Not so much. Because I'm about, what do you do on the field? Tim Tebow has just signed with one of my favorite teams because they have the best coach on the planet, Bill Belichick. They signed Tim Tebow for next year. And I know Brett loves Tim Tebow. I know the masses love Tim Tebow. Skylar, I understand that you like Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
What is it about Tim Tebow that you like?
That he's Christian and that he loves God.
Imagine that, see, a Christian school student loving Tim Tebow because, like you, he's a Christian. Me, professional sports bettor, I don't like Tim Tebow. Why are we always talking about Tim Tebow? The guy, fact is, he had 39 yards passing more. He had 39 more passing yards than I did last year. Tim Tebow is a fraud. What say you?
He also has more playoff wins than you.
Wait, I want to talk about his last playoff when he lost by like 100 points. Well, they were projected to. They have a good. The reason Tim Tebow won.
Were they favored against the Steelers in the game?
At home.
I'm just saying.
At home, yes.
Okay.
A small favorite. So he didn't do anything they weren't projected to do. But here's what happened. Tim Tebow had a following because every week they would find themselves down. Why? Because he was inept at quarterback.
Well, no.
But he would always come back. But the reason the Broncos went on a winning streak that year was because of their tremendous defense and a very good running game. Right. So I give credit where credit is due, but it's painful to watch this guy throw a pass.
Well, do we all agree that Bill Belichick is a great coach? Do we agree with that or no?
He's the best coach on the planet, period.
Okay. So that would mean he's a great coach.
Super great.
Okay. So he must see something in Tim Tebow because, in fact, he called him – what did he call him? He called him talented. So, obviously he's not going to play unless suddenly in Game 1 Tom Brady has the injury like he had, and suddenly Matt Castle career came out and said, well, look at me, I'm Matt Castle, and suddenly he got millions of dollars. So he's going to be a backup. He's wearing number 5. I'm not sure if that matters or not. But he was in camp today, mini camp for what does Bill Belichick see in him that other coaches are running from? First of all, he was completely misused, miscast, everything in New York. What a disaster that was. A bad mistake by Tim Tebow, who probably doesn't make a lot of them. He made a bad choice by choosing to go to New York. Maybe it was good for his endorsements, but it certainly wasn't good for his image as a football player. He's a good teammate. He works hard. The guys in Denver liked him, even though they might not have respected his ability at times. I think he's been miscast in what he's been able to do. He can be a serviceable player. He's not a great thrower today, no, but he's a good thinker on the field. He's a football player. If you gave me 53 Tim Tebows, I'm going to win more games than I lose because he's got the heart, desire, tenacity, fortitude, determination that I want in all of my players. He has that never give up attitude. He's willing to learn. He's willing to work hard, and he's willing to accept his mistakes and his limitations and work hard to try and get better. I like that in a person.
How long have you had this man crush on Tim Tebow?
I was not a fan of his at the University of Florida. I really wasn't. But you know what? They won at Florida, and he won. He made the big play when it needed to be made.
He won you over with those 39 passing yards he had for the entire season last year.
Against
Don't
the Steelers,
let facts get in the way of a good story.
Last year doesn't count. I mean, come on. Nobody was succeeding. They had 12 quarterbacks in New York. How was Greg
I think his
McElroy?
rating was still higher than Sanchez.
Exactly. How was Sanchez? There you go. Look at that picture up there. But how about the pass? How about the timeliness of the pass to Demaryius Thomas to win the playoff game against the Steelers? Anybody expecting that throw? So it's all about being clutch, finding a way to win. They weren't going to beat New England. We all knew they weren't going to beat New England. They got destroyed 45-10. I remember exactly where I was watching. I didn't watch that game. I was coaching third base, checking my phone. I had the Patriots. Touchdown.
You laid double digits.
Go score a run. Touchdown. Score a run. Touchdown.
Touchdown. That's
exactly.
Great.
Hey, they're up 35-10. This game's easy. And it was. It was just a complete mismatch in that particular game. But a lot of people didn't give him a chance either against Pittsburgh, even though they were a small favorite in that game. A lot of money came in on Pittsburgh, if I'm not mistaken, in that game.
Right.
So,
in fact, a lot of people, myself included, got hurt going against this clown, this fraud, during the course of the regular season. I remember it started, they were down 15-zip to the Miami Dolphins. I was looking good, feeling good, because I had the Dolphins minus 2.5. Next thing I know, it's 15-15 because of your boy, Tebow, and they ultimately won the game straight up 18-15, which cost me money, so maybe that's why I've got a vendetta against this guy.
Now we know why. He cost you money. I saw him speak live, Skyler. I'm sorry. I saw him speak live. He was very good.
You saw Tim Tebow speak. I would imagine he's inspirational, motivational.
He was. He was up at Canyon Ridge Church here in Las Vegas a couple of years ago, and he was very inspirational, yes. My boys wanted to see him, so we went and saw him.
Well, I would think that, in terms of not having much talent, by working hard alone and having a good, solid work ethic, look how far he has come. So I get that. I respect that. It sounds like another Rudy story, which
he's played more than Rudy. Look,
he's more than a one-play walk-on.
He's not.
Does Tim Tebow have a movie?
No, he doesn't.
Well, then he can't compare to Rudy.
He probably will eventually, but he's a national champion 2 times, right? And then he came through and was a first-round draft choice. So somebody liked him. Ironically, Josh McDaniel, who was not the assistant to Bill Belichick, who was then the coach of the Denver Broncos. Guess what? Guess where Josh McDaniel is now? He's back with Bill Belichick. New England! And that's why he's back in New England as well.
Well, I think, to get back to your original point, as far as what is Bill Belichick doing, first of all, Belichick is a genius. And there's one person on the planet you do not question. Bill Belichick. He's a genius. I'm talking about, he's basically saying, screw you, National Football League. Well, I will take this guy in, and he will not be a distraction, but I'm not buying your argument saying that he's a backup QB. Throw in a cheerleader before you throw in Tebow. I think they might use this guy as a tight end, although there's one problem. He can't catch.
Well, how do you know? They never
he
throw
has
the ball.
hands of stone.
He's got gator arms.
I'm telling you.
He went to Florida. That's why he went to Florida. He's got gator arms.
Belichick will sell you on the idea that he's a backup quarterback because he doesn't want any team thinking that, okay, well, with Hernandez and Gronkowski.
But Gronk's had surgery again on his back, on his elbow,
so
on his shoulder.
they might use this guy, I'm thinking, as a blocking tight end or as a distraction on the field. But, I mean, it would be great if he actually could. But you can improve your pass-catching skills. So we'll see how it plays out. I'm intrigued. I laughed out loud in the privacy of my home, in my office. I laughed when I saw that Tebow was signed. I'm thinking, who? And then it's like, oh, yeah, the Patriots. Of course they did. I love it.
It will be interesting, and I agree with you. I don't think he'll be a distraction because Belichick won't let it. Belichick doesn't talk to anybody about anything anyway.
Right.
He just says whatever and moves on to his next thing. Go ahead.
Well, let's talk baseball. Before we get to the right side, before we get to where Brett and I put money into your pocket, I do want to touch on winning streaks. Baseball is such a streaky sport. Ride the wave, baby. Winning streak, losing streak, ride it. You can only lose once and you can win as long as a streak. Look at the Cleveland Indians.
Right.
8 consecutive losses. The Houston Astros, since they stopped playing the L.A.,
it's amazing.
Los Angeles, Anaheim, whatever you call them, Angels, they've
Dodgers.
lost 5 straight games. Winning streaks, the Royals, wow, look out, 6 consecutive wins. Milwaukee Brewers, of all teams, 4 consecutive wins. Looking at division winners at this point, Boston Red Sox, along with the Detroit Tigers, Texas Rangers. Anything surprising you there right now?
No, not really. No, those teams. The Red Sox are a bit of a surprise, but they've been very good all year. I still like Baltimore in that division. They're only 3.5 games back, and it wouldn't shock me to see 2 of those 3 teams make the playoffs.
My Atlanta Braves winning the National League East. I say my Atlanta Braves because going into the season I like the Nationals, but hey, I change boats in midstream. It's a free country. I can do whatever I want. It's my show. I'll do whatever. Hey, I like the Braves now. They're my team.
Because the Nets are being boat raced.
That too.
Why. Yes.
I know you're a Cardinal fan, so we'll have some good nature, or maybe not so good nature banter going on the rest of the year. You like the Cardinals, I like the Braves. D-backs winning the National League West at this point in time. This is the part of the show where Brett Grant and I together put money into your pocket as we put you on the right side. I'm 16-9, feeling fine.
All right, my game yesterday fell out, unfortunately. Actually, I was never in it, but that's all right. Things happen. But the money moved in my favor, Scott.
That's good. That's a good sign, my friend.
And so far today, the money's moving in my favor again. I'm going to go to a game in Wrigley Field where hopefully their fog won't be there. They were all bundled up yesterday. They looked like they were freezing cold. 5 o'clock start, night game at Wrigley Field in Chicago. Matt Garza goes for the Cubbies against the Cincinnati Reds, and Cingrani in this particular spot for the Reds. The Reds are a very good team, Tony, against bad teams. They dominate the bad teams. Reds minus 120. The money is moved in my favor. I'm going to take the Reds minus $1.20. I think it's now $1.27 or so. Reds to win at Chicago today.
Before we get to my right side, I want to recap what I did yesterday. 16-8 in my last 24 games going into yesterday. I like the Angels. I'm a believer. Jared Weaver. He did okay. I mean, nothing great. I mean, they lost the game. I lost by 1 run. I'm 16-9 my last 25 plays. I'm looking at a total today. High altitude, thin air. Colorado Rockies hosting the Washington Nationals. I like the over. Red Rover. I love the over. I bet over 10 last night. I went ahead and I do my work the night before. I sent the graphic information to my good buddy Jacob Cannon, only to wake up this morning on the way to the studio. I noticed it's been bet up to 10.5 over minus 15 cents. I laid over 10. That's my play. That's what I bet. That's what I'm giving out. 16-9 my last 25 plays. Scott Pritchard, Pritchard'sPicks.com, VegasInsider.com, RefPicks.com. Here today, special guest, the love of my life. She's an angel, Skylar Pritchard. I want to thank you for sitting in with us today. Are you going to go with me to Del Mar, the Del Mar Beach Club, so we can hang with Dink again in August?
You bet I am.
Wasn't that fun last year?
Yeah.
What was your favorite part about going there?
I think I loved watching the horse races because it was the first time that I've ever watched something like that before. So that was really fun.
Do you like sports, Skylar?
Certain kinds.
Okay.
I kind of like baseball. I like softball and tennis a lot. So.
Well, you play tennis.
Yeah.
You play softball. I've seen you play basketball, and you are not a chip off the old block. You're much better than I ever could be. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you again, okay?
Okay.
For Skylar Pritchard, my daughter, age 10, going on 25, my name is Scott Pritchard, founder of Pritchard'sPicks.com, featured on VegasInsider.com, RefPicks.com. For my good buddy and co-host Brett Grant, Scott Pritchard, wishing you a very happy Tuesday. Good luck and goodbye.